complicated and tested the very meaning of her love. It's not easy. It's not black and white, but it's honest. So sit with me. Let me be quiet and listen, word by word, to a story that you won't forget. There's something about the way winter light filters through old glass. Cold and grey and yet, somehow, still soft. That morning I stood by the stove, watching the steam rise in lazy tendrils from the pot of soup I'd been stirring for nearly an hour. Outside, the wind scraped across the old Victorian windows with a sigh that echoed through the bones of the house. Inside, all was quiet except for the gentle bubbling of broth and the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards beneath my slippers. My name is Clara. I'm 44 years old, and for most of my life, I've worn the identity of a single mother like a second skin. Natural, tight-fitting, sometimes suffocating, but always mine. My son Ethan, now 22, has been the core of my world since the day he was born. He was the reason I got out of bed every morning during years when grief, debt, and exhaustion nearly swallowed me whole. We were a unit, two hearts learning to beat in unison through chaos and calm alike. There's a specific kind of bond forged between a single mother and her only child. It's deeper than dependency. It's companionship, protection, shared secrets, and silent glances that say, I've got you. Over time, that closeness can feel like safety, like a small boat floating on a wide ocean, just the two of you, weathering storm after storm. But what happens when the boat starts taking on water? That night, I began to find out. It was nearly midnight when the front door clicked open. Ethan walked in quietly, his movements sluggish, his shoulders hunched beneath his jacket, like he was carrying the weight of something far heavier than textbooks. His dark hair, longer now than I preferred, had fallen into his eyes, which were dull with exhaustion. Not just the tired that comes from late nights and early mornings, but the deep, bone-level kind of fatigue that speaks to a weariness of the soul. Hey, Mom, he said. His voice was rough and low, like he hadn't spoken all day. I don't feel so great. I turned from the stove, my heart instantly tugging toward him. I didn't need to ask what was wrong. I could see it in the slouch of his shoulders, in the way his hands shook slightly.
Good girl. Yeet. Yeet. Fuck over here. No. Not here. I've been in this building. Yeah, no. Maybe down here. Which will fucking maybe not this good and there's nothing in here besides my minions. Again. And nothing. Wow. That's disappointing, isn't it? Right, you. There's nothing in there besides my minion. What about the building over there? Why not? Oh. Yeah. You here. Done together. Well, let's try again.
Lightly as he tugged off his coat, quietly grabbing the heavy quilt from the linen closet along the way, the same one my grandmother had stitched by hand decades ago. It still smelled faintly of cedar and thyme. In my bedroom, Ethan collapsed onto the bed with a sigh that seemed to come from his very bones. I unfolded the quilt and draped it over him, tucking it carefully around his shoulders, smoothing it along his back just like I used to when he was a child with a fever. He murmured a soft, barely audible, "Thanks, Mom," as his eyes fluttered shut. For a moment, everything felt normal, familiar. Mother and son, caregiver and child, the way it had always been. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest, my heart aching with a love so fierce it almost scared me. But then, I did something I hadn't planned. I lay down beside him. I told myself it was harmless, just to warm him, to share body heat in a room that never quite held warmth in the winter. I had done it when he was younger, hadn't I? During thunderstorms when he'd sneak into my bed, frightened by the wind. Back then, I was his whole world, and he clung to me with innocent trust. But he wasn't a little boy anymore, and I wasn't just a mother anymore. I was a woman too, tired, lonely, starved for touch. At first, it felt fine, innocent. The quiet hum of the heater filled the silence, and I listened to Ethan's breathing slow into a rhythm that soothed me. But then, he moved, shifted closer, his body pressed gently against mine under the quilt. I froze. Something in me flickered, uncertainty, confusion, fear. I told myself he was just seeking warmth, that his instincts were reaching for something familiar, something safe. But when his arm slid over my waist, pulling me close, everything inside me tensed. The air thickened. My breath caught. Still, I didn't move. It wasn't the touch that frightened me. It was the feeling behind it, the softness of it, the care.
Okay, yes, I can travel to other dimensions.
Different.
Good.
New. And I hated myself for noticing it. Then I felt it. A hardness against my thigh, barely concealed by the fabric between us. It was unmistakable. My stomach dropped. My heart lurched into a sprint, a wave of disbelief crashing over me. This was wrong. This was so terribly, unthinkably wrong. My mind screamed, "Get up! Move! Say something!" But my body refused. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. All I could do was stare into the darkness of the room and pray the moment would evaporate into nothingness. Ethan stirred again. His head lifted. His eyes met mine. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling, "is this okay?" That single question sliced through me. I saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the confusion, the longing, and worse, a reflection of my own. I should have said no. I should have gotten up. But instead, I nodded. Just a small, frightened nod, barely a twitch of the head. But enough. Enough to cross a boundary I'd never imagined even approaching. He leaned closer, his breath brushing against my cheek, his hand lifted to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. An act so gentle, so heartbreakingly tender it made my chest ache. My heart pounded so loudly I feared it might wake the house. And yet I didn't move. I let myself feel it. For one horrifying, beautiful moment, I let myself feel the closeness, the warmth, the intimacy, and it shattered me. Then, just as suddenly, Ethan pulled back. He sat up quickly, rubbing the back of his neck, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Sorry, Mom," he muttered, voice thick. "I didn't mean to. I don't know what that was." The spell shattered. Reality returned with a vengeance. I sat up, trying to steady my shaking hands. "It's okay," I said, my voice too bright, too brittle. "We're just tired. It's been a long day." But it wasn't okay. Nothing about that moment was okay. We both knew it, and neither of us could say it aloud. Just then, the doorbell rang. A sharp, unexpected sound that cut through the tension like a blade. I jumped to my feet, the interruption almost a gift. At the door was Tom, our neighbour, mid-50s, kind eyes, always offering to help. He stood in the snow, holding a flashlight. "Hey, Clara," he said. "Saw your porch light flickering. Everything all right in there?" His presence was grounding, normal, human. For a second, I wanted to throw my arms around him just to remind myself what sanity felt like. "The heat has been fussy," I said, stepping aside. "If you wouldn't mind taking a quick look." He nodded and entered, his boots squeaking against the floor. As he knelt by the heater, I saw Ethan standing at the end of the hallway, watching us silently, his jaw tight, his arms crossed. I closed the front door gently, my back leaning against its smooth surface as Tom slipped away down the porch steps. I could still hear his soft crunch through the snow as he made his way home, then nothing but the hush of a house that felt frozen in the moment. I sighed. The air in the hallway was thick, charged with things we both weren't ready to name. I could almost feel the weight of the silence pressing down on me. Then Ethan came forward, closing the gap between us so slowly I felt every step he took. When he reached me, he looked up, his eyes unsure. He pressed his palms flat against the doorframe, framed like some hesitant confession about to be made. "Mom!" His voice came out low, nearly swallowed by the walls. "We need to talk." I nodded, stepping aside so he could pass. He walked toward the living room where the heater hummed, its uneven rhythm echoing my heartbeat. I followed and stood beside him. In the dim light, our reflections looked smaller, fragile. "We can't go back," he said finally. Nothing else, just those 5 words. But the magnitude behind them pressed in, louder than any shout. My throat tightened. It wasn't that I disagreed. I just didn't know where to begin after crossing a line neither of us fully understood. "We don't have to pretend," I said softly. "We can be honest." His eyes flickered at me, searching, aching. When he spoke, his voice cracked. I feel like I don't know what I felt, or why, but I know it was wrong. And I'm so sorry. He sounded younger than his 22 years, There was a boy's innocence in his tone, fragile and unguarded. The sound tore at me, tore me wide open. I swallowed, looking at my hands, feeling their age and care, the lines that told of years raising him, protecting him, loving him. I'm sorry too, I whispered. I don't know what came over me. I should have stopped it. I froze. I shook my head. I'm so tired, Ethan. Tired of being a mother with no other purpose. Tired of feeling unseen. I met his gaze, tears catching in them.
Cool, cool. Let's do it. Here. Down. Well, I'll see you in 4 years. That's when I'll be gone to a new dimension. What do you reckon? Should I bring my ex-girlfriend along? Or should I just leave her here? I guess you guys have to wait until 3 years. I might and I might not. But then again, I still love her. Well, who knows? Only 3 years would know from now. So I'll see you then.